It was supposed to be one of the happiest nights of my life, my 35th birthday. The house was filled with soft laughter, candles flickering across the dining table, and the smell of vanilla and roses. My husband Daniel had gone all out, perfect food, perfect music, perfect smiles. Everything seemed right. Until it wasn't. My sister, Melissa, walked in late. She looked stunning, glowing in a way that made heads turn. I smiled even though our relationship had been complicated. We used to be inseparable growing up, but over the years, something changed. She became colder, competitive, and somehow always wanted what I had. Still, it was my birthday, and I wanted peace. Dinner went smoothly at first. Everyone laughed, glasses clinked, and the cake was just about to be served. Then, out of nowhere, Melissa cleared her throat and stood up. She had that smirk I knew too well, the one that always came before something cruel. "I have an announcement," she said, placing her hand dramatically over her stomach. "I'm pregnant." Everyone gasped and clapped. I smiled politely, but then she added 4 words that froze my blood. "With Daniel's baby." For a second, time stopped. Forks clattered onto plates. My heart hammered in my chest, but I stayed completely still. My husband's face went pale. He didn't even try to speak. Melissa's smile widened. "Yes," she continued, her tone sharp. "Daniel and I are in love. We're a family now. I thought tonight would be the perfect time to tell you, to set you free." The room was dead silent. Everyone looked at me, waiting for me to explode, cry, scream, anything, but I didn't. I took a deep breath, looked straight at her, and smiled. "That's quite a surprise," I said calmly, my voice steady. "Congratulations." Her smug expression faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. "You're taking this well," she said mockingly. I expected more drama. "Oh, don't worry," I replied softly, reaching for my glass of champagne. "The night's still young." Daniel finally spoke, his voice shaking. "Claire, I can explain." I raised my hand to stop him. "No need. I already know everything." Melissa's brow furrowed. You knew?" I nodded, swirling the champagne in my glass slowly. "For months. You could have heard a pin drop." The air in the room grew thick. Confusion, tension, and fear all mixed together. I stood, raised my glass for a toast, and smiled at the 2 people who thought they had destroyed me. "To truth," I said softly, "because it always comes out one way or another." And as I said those words, I saw a flicker of panic cross Daniel's face. He knew something they didn't, because tonight, I wasn't the only one with a secret. The air inside that room grew heavier with every passing second. No one spoke. Even the music had stopped, as if the house itself was holding its breath. I could feel every pair of eyes fixed on me, waiting for me to fall apart. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled, walked slowly around the table, and poured myself another glass of champagne. "You see," I began, my tone light but my heart racing. "It's funny how people think secrets can stay hidden. But secrets, they always have a way of bleeding through the cracks." Daniel looked terrified now, his eyes darting between me and Melissa. "Claire, please," he muttered, "this isn't the place." "Oh, I think it's exactly the place," I said coldly. "After all, you both wanted an audience." Melissa rolled her eyes, fading confidence. "What could you possibly say that changes anything? You're humiliated. You're done." I laughed softly, a sound even I didn't recognize. "Oh, sweetheart," I said, turning toward her. "You really think this is about humiliation? No. This is about truth. And since you've chosen to make your announcement at my birthday dinner, allow me to share mine." I placed my glass down and looked directly at Daniel. "You see, dear husband, while you were busy sneaking around with my sister, I was busy uncovering, well, everything." Daniel's face went pale. "Claire." I cut him off. The late nights, the phone calls, the work trips that never existed. I knew, but instead of confronting you, I did something smarter. I watched. Melissa's fake smile wavered. "What are you talking about?" I tilted my head. "Oh, I'm sure you remember the beautiful lake house you've both been using for your secret getaways." Such a shame you never noticed the new security system installed there. A low murmur spread through the guests. Daniel's jaw clenched. You didn't. Oh, I did, I said smoothly. Hidden cameras, recordings, messages, every single lie. Every betrayal captured in crystal clarity. Melissa's face turned ghostly white. You're bluffing. Am I? I asked softly. I reached into my clutch, pulled out my phone, and tapped the screen. A faint sound began to play, Daniel's voice. Unmistakable. Whispering her name, promising her a future. The entire room froze. Daniel's face dropped into his hands. Melissa stumbled back, her composure crumbling completely. Congratulations, I said quietly. Now the entire world knows your secret too. Gasps echoed across the table. Someone dropped a glass. The sound of shattering crystal filled the silence. Then I lifted my champagne one more time. You wanted to start your new family tonight, didn't you? I said, my voice calm but sharp as a blade. Well, consider this your baby shower gift. Melissa stared at me, trembling. You're evil. I smiled faintly. No, Melissa. I just learned from the best. Daniel stood suddenly, his face red. Enough, Claire. You've made your point. But I wasn't finished. Not even close. Because what they didn't know yet was that the biggest secret of all hadn't been revealed. The tension in the room was suffocating. No one moved. The air seemed to vibrate with shock, fear, and something else, anticipation. Every face around the table reflected the same question. What else could she possibly have to say? Daniel stood stiffly, fists clenched, trying to regain control of the chaos. Enough, Claire, he said through gritted teeth. You're humiliating yourself. I tilted my head, studying him. Oh, Daniel. You really think I'm the one being humiliated here? I asked softly. No, love. Tonight it's your turn. Melissa tried to collect herself, her hand trembling as she wiped a tear away. What do you even want from us, Claire? You caught us, fine. Just let it go. We're together now. You can move on. Her words stabbed at me like knives, but I didn't flinch. Move on, I repeated. You stole my husband, you lied to my face, and you expect me to move on? She met my gaze, defiant but shaky. We're in love. You can't change that. I smiled faintly, a cold, knowing smile. Oh, I'm not trying to change your love story, Melissa. I'm just here to tell you how it ends. Daniel frowned. What are you talking about? I turned to face him, my voice suddenly calm, almost tender. You remember last year when you got that sudden job promotion? The one that seemed too good to be true? His eyes narrowed. What about it? I leaned in slightly. You didn't get that promotion because of you're a hard worker, Daniel. You got it because I made sure you did. Confusion spread across his face. Yo? What? I nodded slowly. I helped you. I recommended you to my company's partner board. I even convinced them to fund your business idea. But, of course, you wouldn't know that, would you? Because while I was building your career, you were building a secret life with her. The realization began to dawn on him. Wait, your company's partner board? Yes, I said, my voice sharpening. The same one that owns the house you've been staying in. The same one that's been quietly monitoring all financial transactions. You thought we're private. Melissa blinked, confused. What does that mean? It means, I said, eyes locking onto hers, that every hotel you booked, every account you used for your little trips, every transaction you made to hide your affair all came from my money. Daniel went pale. No, that's impossible. I smiled again. The kind of smile that comes only after years of pain finally find purpose. Oh, it's very possible. You see, Daniel, I own 51% of your company. You've been working for me all along. A wave of gasps rippled through the table. Melissa's face twisted in disbelief. You're lying. Am I? I said calmly, holding up a folder from my bag. These are your signed partnership documents, Daniel. You never even read them, did you? His mouth opened, but no words came out. Melissa stared at him, realization sinking in like poison. So, all this time, she was your boss? I nodded slowly, and tonight, I'm firing him." The silence that followed was absolute. Daniel's face turned ghostly white. He sank slowly into his chair as though the strength had left his body. Melissa looked at him, her voice breaking. "Tell me she's lying, Daniel. Tell me you didn't sign away your company to her." Daniel swallowed hard, his throat tightening. I didn't know," he murmured. "Claire said it was a standard investment form. I didn't read the fine print." The guests around us whispered, unable to look away. My birthday dinner had turned into something no one could have imagined. A public unmasking of betrayal. I stood calmly, taking a slow sip from my glass. "You both thought you were taking everything from me?" I said softly. "But in truth, you were building my empire with every deceitful step you took." Melissa's eyes were red, her voice trembling with rage. "You tricked him. You planned all of this?" I set my glass down gently. "No, Melissa, I didn't plan your betrayal. But once it happened, I decided I'd never be a victim again." Daniel buried his face in his hands. "Claire, please. We can fix this. Don't do this in front of everyone." I stared at him, my heart heavy but steady. "You already did everything in front of everyone. I'm just finishing the story you started." The candles flickered. Somewhere, a guest coughed awkwardly. The silence was a wall between us, thick, suffocating, final. Melissa stood suddenly, tears streaking her makeup. "You think you've won, don't you? You ruined your own marriage just to prove a point." I looked at her, sadness flickering in my eyes. "No, Melissa, I didn't ruin my marriage. You did that the moment you betrayed me." She glared at me, shaking. "You can't just destroy us like this. You're heartless." I smiled faintly. "You're wrong again. I'm not heartless. I'm healed." Then I turned to Daniel. "Do you know what hurt most? It wasn't losing you. It was realizing how blind I was. How I loved a man who would watch me suffer for years and still call it love." He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "I never meant to hurt you." I tilted my head. "And yet, you did, over and over again." Melissa grabbed his arm. "We'll leave, Daniel. We don't need her." But I wasn't done yet. "Actually," I said softly, "you might want to stay for one more truth. Because while you were too busy betraying me, Daniel, I discovered something that changes everything." Daniel looked up slowly. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, my voice calm but deliberate. "Remember when I told you I'd never be a victim again? Well, that's because the man you betrayed me with," I paused, watching their eyes widen, "wasn't the only one keeping secrets." Melissa's face twisted in confusion. "What are you saying?" I smiled, stepping closer. "I'm saying, your happy ending has an unexpected twist." Daniel's brow furrowed. "What twist?" I met his eyes and whispered, "That child you're so proud of might not be yours." The entire room froze again. Melissa gasped audibly, her hand flying to her stomach. And for the first time that night, Daniel looked truly afraid. The sound of my words seemed to echo endlessly in the air. Every face around the table turned toward Melissa, who stood trembling, her hand protectively clutching her stomach. Daniel's voice cracked through the silence. What did you just say?" I looked at him, calm but cold. "You heard me, Daniel. That baby she's carrying, it might not be yours." Melissa's eyes went wide with fury and panic. "You're lying," she snapped. "You're just saying that to hurt us." I raised an eyebrow. "Am I? Then maybe you'd like to explain the messages between you and Dr. Evans." The blood drained from her face. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Who's Dr. Evans?" Melissa stammered. He's just a friend." "A friend?" I repeated softly, walking toward her. "Strange kind of friend who sends you ultrasound payments and signs the messages. I can't wait to meet our baby." The color left Daniel's face completely. His hands trembled on the table. "Melissa," he said hoarsely, "tell me she's lying." Melissa's lips quivered. "Daniel, please, tell me the truth," he shouted, his voice breaking. She burst into tears, covering her face. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she cried. "You were never supposed to find out." Daniel took a step back, disbelief in his eyes. So it's true? You're carrying another man's child? Melissa tried to reach for him, but he pulled away as if her touch burned. I was lonely, she sobbed. You were distant, confused. I thought you didn't love me. He laughed bitterly, his voice shaking. You destroyed your sister's life for me, and now you've destroyed mine for someone else. I stood quietly, watching the two of them unravel like the lies they built. There was no satisfaction in it, only a strange, hollow kind of peace. You see, I said softly, betrayal doesn't stop where you want it to. It always circles back until it finds you. Melissa turned on me, her eyes wild. You planned this. You wanted this to happen. I shook my head. No, Melissa, you did. You chose deceit over love, lust over loyalty. And now? You're standing in the ruins of your own choices. Daniel sat back down, his face blank, defeated. So, all of this was for nothing, he muttered. I lost my wife, my company, my reputation, and now even the child I thought was mine. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was Melissa's quiet sobbing, and the faint hum of the candle flames. Then I stepped closer, my tone softer than before. You both taught me something tonight, something I'll never forget. Love without truth is just manipulation. And forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from the people who broke you. Daniel looked up at me, tears in his eyes. What will you do now? I smiled faintly. I'll start over. Without you. And with that, I set my empty glass on the table, turned away, and walked out, leaving their broken world behind me. 6 months had passed since that unforgettable night, the night my world ended and somehow began again. The divorce was finalized quietly. I kept the house not because I wanted to cling to the past, but because I wanted to reclaim it. I repainted every wall, replaced every trace of Daniel's presence, and filled the silence with laughter again, my own laughter. At first, I thought I'd never smile genuinely again, but grief, like a storm, eventually moves on. The sun does come out, softer, gentler, wiser. I threw myself into my work, started my own interior design studio. To my surprise, it flourished quickly. Clients appreciated my honesty, my empathy. I suppose pain, when transformed, becomes understanding, but sometimes, late at night, I would still think about Melissa and Daniel. Last I heard, Melissa had left town after Daniel discovered she'd also been stealing money from his account to cover her lover's expenses. The child she carried, not Daniel's, was born prematurely. No one had heard much after that. As for Daniel, he'd disappeared from the business world entirely. His company was bought out, his name erased from every boardroom he once dominated. Then, one rainy afternoon, fate decided our story wasn't quite over. I was sitting at a cafe downtown, reviewing sketches for a client, when I heard a voice I never thought I'd hear again. Evelyn? I froze. Slowly, I looked up and there he was. Daniel. He looked older, thinner. His eyes were tired and his once perfect suit was replaced by a simple jacket. There was no arrogance left in his posture. Only regret. Daniel, I said, my voice calm. It's been a long time. He smiled sadly. Too long. He hesitated, then sat across from me. You look different, happier. I am, I said simply. He nodded slowly. I deserved everything that happened. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. For everything I did to you. His words hung in the air, heavy, sincere. I studied him quietly. The man who once betrayed me looked nothing like the man sitting before me now. Life had stripped him of his pride and in its place, left humility. I forgave you a long time ago, Daniel, I said. Not for you, for me. He blinked, surprised. You did? Yes, anger was a chain I refused to carry anymore. You both hurt me. But you also set me free to build a life that's mine. A tear rolled down his cheek. I wish I'd realized what I had before I lost it. I smiled softly. Most people do. That's the tragedy of betrayal. It always comes with hindsight. We sat there for a moment in silence, two ghosts of a broken past, finally at peace. As he stood to leave, he said quietly, "You were always stronger than both of us." I watched him go, feeling nothing but gratitude, not for the pain, but for the strength it had forged within me. 2 weeks after that encounter with Daniel, I thought the past had finally closed its chapter. I was wrong. It was a bright Sunday morning when I decided to visit the local farmers market, something I'd grown to love doing alone. I was reaching for a basket of oranges when a weak, trembling voice spoke from behind me. "Evelyn." My hand froze midair. That voice, shaky, frail, familiar, made my heart pound in my chest. I turned around slowly. "Melissa!" But this wasn't the same woman who'd smirked at me at my birthday dinner. She looked broken. Her hair was unkempt, her clothes plain, her once sharp eyes now dull with exhaustion. She was holding a small boy's hand, maybe 6 or 7 years old. "Melissa?" I whispered, stunned. "What are you doing here?" She swallowed hard, eyes glistening. I didn't know where else to go. Every emotion I'd buried, anger, sadness, betrayal, came rushing back like a wave. But then I saw the boy, his big brown eyes, so innocent, peering up at me with confusion. "This is my son, Aaron," she said softly. He's sick. The hospital said he might need surgery. I don't have anyone left, Evelyn." I stared at her. The irony of it all was cruel. Years ago she left me for my husband, believing she was stepping into a better life. And now, here she was, asking for help from the same sister she betrayed. "I know you have every reason to hate me," she continued, tears streaming down her cheeks. "But please, he's just a child. He didn't do anything wrong." I knelt down and looked at the boy. He smiled faintly at me, his face pale but sweet. "Hi, Aaron," I said gently. "Hi," he whispered. "Mom says you're my aunt." That word, aunt, hit me like a knife and a balm at the same time. I took a deep breath and stood up. "Melissa, come with me." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You're helping us?" "I'm not doing it for you," I said quietly. "I'm doing it for him. No child deserves to suffer for his parents' mistakes." She broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably as she clutched her son's hand. That evening, I drove them to the hospital and spoke to the doctors. I covered the initial costs, arranged everything that needed to be done, and as I sat in that waiting room, watching Melissa comfort her son, something shifted inside me. For years, I believed forgiveness was just a word, something people said but never truly meant. But in that moment, I realized forgiveness wasn't about forgetting what someone did. It was about freeing yourself from the weight of what they made you feel. When Melissa looked at me with tearful gratitude, I saw not the woman who destroyed my marriage, but a sister, lost, scared, and human. Maybe we both needed healing. And maybe, just maybe, this was where it would finally begin. The next morning, the hospital corridors were filled with the quiet hum of machines and the faint scent of antiseptic. Aaron was being prepped for surgery, and Melissa sat beside him, holding his tiny hand as if she feared letting go would mean losing him forever. I stood by the doorway watching them. Melissa looked so fragile, her eyes hollow, her lips trembling with silent prayers. Seeing her like that, all I could think of was the girl she once was. My baby sister who used to follow me everywhere, who cried when she scraped her knee, who swore we'd always be together no matter what. Somewhere along the line, greed, jealousy, and the illusion of love had stolen that girl away. As the nurses wheeled Aaron into the operating room, Melissa broke down completely. I walked over and held her, not as the sister she betrayed, but as the sister who once loved her. She buried her face in my shoulders, sobbing uncontrollably. "I don't deserve your kindness, Evelyn," she cried. "Not after what I did." "No," I said softly. "You don't, but that's what forgiveness is. It's not earned. It's given." She pulled back, staring at me through tears. "Why are you helping me after everything?" "Because hate doesn't heal," I replied quietly. "It only spreads the pain." Hours passed like days as we waited for news. I kept glancing at the clock, at the sterile doors, at the trembling woman beside me who was finally learning what loss and love truly meant. Finally, the surgeon came out, smiling gently. "The operation went well," he said. "He's going to be fine." Melissa gasped, covering her mouth as fresh tears streamed down her face. She collapsed into my arms, whispering over and over, "Thank you. Thank you, Evelyn." When we entered the recovery room, Aaron was sleeping peacefully, his small chest rising and falling with steady breaths. Melissa brushed his hair back and turned to me. "You saved my son," she said, voice trembling. "You saved my soul." I shook my head. "You saved it yourself by coming back." She looked down, ashamed. "I don't expect you to ever forgive me for what I did with Daniel. I already did," I said, "the moment I chose peace over revenge." Her eyes widened. "You really forgive me?" "I do, but that doesn't mean I forget. It means I've made peace with it. You can't rewrite the past, Melissa, but you can stop it from ruining what's left of your future." She nodded slowly, tears still glistening. "You're stronger than I ever was." "No," I whispered, glancing at Aaron. "Pain made me strong, but forgiveness made me free." As I walked out of the hospital later that night, a cool breeze brushed against my face. For the first time in years, I felt completely unburdened, no anger, no bitterness, no resentment, just quiet peace. Sometimes, life doesn't give you happy endings. It gives you closure, and that's enough. Years have passed since that unforgettable chapter of my life. The night my sister announced her pregnancy with my husband, thinking she was destroying me, but time has a way of rewriting even the most painful stories. I often sit on my porch now, watching the sunset, sipping tea, and smiling at how unpredictable life can be. I built a life on my own terms, strong, peaceful, and free from bitterness. My design studio expanded into multiple cities, and every time a new client walks through the door, I see a reflection of myself, someone trying to rebuild after loss. As for Melissa and Aaron, they moved to another town. Aaron is now a healthy, bright teenager who often calls me Aunt Evie. Sometimes they visit, and though the past still lingers like a faded scar, it no longer bleeds. Melissa changed, truly changed. She works at a women's shelter now, helping others who've faced betrayal and heartbreak. She often tells me that the day I helped her son was the day she began to heal. And maybe she's right, because that day, I began to heal too. One afternoon, as we sat together watching Aaron play in the park, she turned to me and said, "I never thought forgiveness could look like this." I smiled softly. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, Melissa. It simply stops it from controlling your future. She nodded, eyes misty, and for the first time in decades, we laughed genuinely. Not as enemies, not as rivals, but as sisters who had walked through the fire and come out alive. Sometimes, when people hear my story, they ask, "How could you forgive something like that? How could you still love after being betrayed so deeply?" And I tell them this: forgiveness isn't weakness, it's strength. It's standing tall after the world tries to break you. It's choosing peace when anger feels easier. It's realizing that revenge doesn't heal wounds, compassion does. There was a time when I thought that night at my birthday dinner was the worst moment of my life, but looking back now, it was the beginning of my transformation. That betrayal pushed me to rediscover my worth, my resilience, and my faith in life. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, loved, or even called family, remember this: you are not defined by what they did to you. You are defined by how you rise after it. So, raise your own glass to peace, to healing, and to the power of letting go. Because life isn't about the people who leave you. It's about the person you become when they do. Thank you for listening to my story. If this tale touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more powerful real-life stories that teach us about love, pain, and strength. And remember, every ending carries the seed of a new beginning.